Hi, and welcome to Thursday with a Friend. My name is Lawrence, Larry, Punk, whatever you want to call me. And today we are on the eve of Joe Fest. This is not a live recording. So if you are sending me super chats, if you're sending me messages and asking us questions, we cannot answer them. Hopefully, we'll be able to be live. We will both be in Atlanta somewhere. Maybe not together, but this will probably be a short episode. Take that how you want to. But with me is a special guest. Toy Kennections, Mr. Ken Poe. Did I say that properly?
Yeah, I mean, there's only one way to pronounce it.
You never know. In this day and age, you never know.
It's like you say, it says Ken Poe. It's like, did I say it right? No, it's actually Johnny Smith or something. Like,
Well,
okay. I don't want to make any assumptions.
Exactly. So, thank you for. I think this is the first time you're actually on my channel. Or I'm not sure if you've been on any time that I've hosted the Ozhole Clubhouse.
We did the Delta 17 thing with Steve.
Oh yeah, that was like last week.
Yeah, it was actually quite recent. So I'm the same way. My memory cuts off at a certain time, but whether I remember the recent stuff or the later stuff, I'm not really sure. But I never remember both. So
hey, and again, we've kind of bounced back and forth. And if anyone is actually wondering, I really go at Ken a lot with stuff. He tries to come back at me, but his ribs aren't that good. We actually talk a good amount, and we're actually pretty good friends. Hate to break kayfabe here for everyone, but anyway, let's just get into this. Let's start with your name.
My name,
Toy Kennections. Your YouTube name. Now we can kind of see where the Ken comes from, but how did you come up with it, and was there a reason that it came up, like that you decided?
I mean, prior to going on YouTube, I really just like to build like connections in my local town. So like I know a lot of the store owners. I kind of bring people together, bring friends together, just for like gatherings and things like that. So I was like, how do I put a spin on the word like connecting people or bringing people together? And I'm like, well, my name lends itself quite well. So eventually I just, strung the word Toy Kennections directly onto it. And then it just sort of snowballed into like, I thought about branding that as like, if I had like a toy shop, I would brand it as that. But I'm like, no, I actually want to go talk about toy histories and like my interpretations on stuff in terms of toys and pop culture. So I just sort of like sprung the Kennections name onto there. Next thing you know, there's a YouTube channel as of April 2021. And there you go.
So quickly, I saw something in the back there in the window. So if anyone is wondering and they hear something like this, really good in here, shoot on. It's probably because Ken's kid is playing video games. It's now everyone realized the Bobcat is a kid celebrating playing video games.
Pretty much, yeah, he's tried to interrupt a few times already. It's almost like as soon as you went live, you see, I kind of had to go like this. Then I had to do it again.
I could see
I'm literally doing it right now. Right. So you can, you can see from the glass, like, it's almost like someone knows that, you can't really be interrupted right now. Like I get left alone when we go on Oz and there's 10 people there and I can just go off camera. But now that it's like, I get to talk about something, it's like, the universe is telling me something. They're like, you and Lawrence are going to break kayfabe. So we're going to bring the kayfabe back into it. Now, my boy's the best. Just coincidental timing.
I'm waiting for some animal to interrupt me, but as of now, he's not. So, all right. So, do you mind me asking, how old are you? Like, what age range are you?
Well, I was born in 1982. So yeah, I'm 42 as of the time of this recording.
But you'll be 43 when it airs?
Not till February. Not till February.
All right.
So there you go.
So you're young. I didn't realize you were that young. I thought you were more in our age range.
Well, the thing is, like for the Joe age group, I'm slightly in the younger age demographic. Like I tend to like my Ninja Turtles friends find me to be the older person in the group. My Joe friends are like, you're a little bit on the young side. My Star Wars friends are like, you are definitely on the young side.
That's what I was kind of looking at, to be honest, the Star Wars. So growing up, where were you born and where did you grow up at?
Um, I grew up in the Philippines. I was born in the Philippines, and
I'm not
I came
actually
here
Canadian.
when I was 4 years old.
Oh,
Um, so let's see. Yeah, in 1986, I came here. Um, yeah, actually, at the time of this recording, it's almost to the day in 1986. We came here June 7th, 1986.
oh wow, yeah, that's 2 days ago.
Yeah,
Wow.
literally.
Well,
So
happy
yeah,
anniversary to end up in Canada.
if it almost sounds like it's condolences. More so than happy anniversary.
So,
Yeah.
you so you're born in the Philippines. Do you have any
Yes,
brothers and sisters?
yes, I got an older brother and an older sister.
Okay, are they
Um,
a big age difference?
my brother is 4 years older than me. My sister is 8 years older than me. So yeah, that's my brother. He kind of got into toys, but he got out of toys faster than I expected him to, and I kind of just kept going. My sister being 8 years older was kind of like, I mean, she never really got into the same stuff at all. But yeah, I mean, I can't even remember what she was into, just because like when I was like 8, she was like 16, right?
Yeah,
So
come on,
like
folks.
mostly I remember her studying. So yeah.
So I assume your whole family moved over from the Philippines, mom and dad.
They were, so here's the thing, right? My ancestors were born in China, like generations ago. Somehow, if you take the southern tip province of China and you take a boat, you'll somehow end up in the Philippines. So my ancestry is actually from China, but we were born, like, from my parents' generation onwards, we were all born in the Philippines, and then we came here to Canada in '86. So
All right, that
it's
is nuts.
kind of this weaving path where, like, so are you Chinese? Yeah. Are you Filipino? Yeah. Are you Canadian? Yeah. What the
But
hell are you?
technically, you're not Canadian.
Sure, we can come up with a different term for it.
But no, but what I mean, like, you weren't born there, you moved there, so it's
Yes,
kind of like
I
you
ended up
know,
getting a citizenship here. Is basically what it
yeah.
is.
So I mean, and again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful about it, but I'm just saying, like, you weren't born there, so technically, you're not like Canadian. Not that I understand what Canadian would be, because I guess if you, to me, if you're born somewhere, that's like what you are.
Yes,
That's why people are like, "Oh, you're Mexican." I'm like, I'm American. Like, I mean, I hate to say that, but until we start saying that what we like where we're born rather than gravitating to other things, maybe we can care about where we're actually at
I
rather
just
than
kind of roll with it at that point in time. It's like if they say,
yeah. I
"Are you
mean,
sure? Are you this?" Sure.
I don't.
Eh, right? Like my sister, on top of everything else that I had already kind of like gone through, like as a kid and everything, she then got married and went to the States. So on top of that, she now has an American citizenship on top of everything else. So
Yeah, and I've heard you talk about going to visit your sister, I believe, in
Sacramento.
Sacramento. Yeah, so she's in California, and I know you talked about your dad. He went to the University of
Yeah, he studied at the
Michigan, beat us in the national championship, right?
University of Washington, actually.
That's it. Yeah, I
There we
don't
go.
know. I know them as the losers of the Michigan national championship.
The whole Rose Bowl, Pac-10, Big Ten. I don't remember the whole thing, man. All I know is when I grew up watching the Washington Huskies was around the time of the Billy Joe Hobart scandal that got the Washington suspended from play for a number of years. And then but hey, if anything, it taught me the rules of American football.
Which is great. I mean, I'm not going to get into sports ball because I know no one here probably cares about sports ball. Hence, they call it sports ball when you bring up sports.
I'm like, which sport? Come on, let's talk, right? I mean, you and I are both in
Well,
hockey.
yeah,
So
I mean, I know you're a hockey guy, and you're actually a reasonable hockey guy because you're actually one that admits that Nick Lidstrom is probably the greatest defenseman of all time.
I always say it's debatable, but I never
It
correct
is.
anyone when they say who it is.
It is debatable, but so many people don't want to admit that a European is one of the top three defensemen of all time. He's top two.
I was gonna say, like, the debate
Yeah,
is not, is he top three? The debate
yeah.
is he a one
It's
or is he a two? Because I
I
don't
was
even know who would be one and two. If you put him three, I don't know. Because for me, it goes Bobby Orr, Nicholas Lidstrom, either order. It's a coin
yeah.
toss order, right?
And again, for me,
So
I'm in Detroit. I watched
Yeah.
his whole career. I'm gonna say he's number one. But like you, if someone says that, to me, I mean, when people talk about Red Wings, they say, um, what's his face? God, I can't think of his name.
Eiserman,
No, not well. The other guy.
Fedorov, um,
No, back in the day,
Gordie Howe.
Gordie Howe. They'll say Gordie Howe's the greatest Red Wing, then Iserman, then Lidstrom, but it's actually Howe, Lidstrom, Iserman.
You have
I mean, I
Lidstrom over
like
Eiserman.
Iserman more,
Wow.
but
Wow.
Lidstrom was a better player,
Hmm.
and Fedorov would have been better than all of them
If
if
if he'd stayed, or
if he I don't ever want to say he didn't play hard. He didn't play as hard as I think he could because I think the game at times was so easy for him. But we're talking sports ball and no one cares. Even we're
yeah,
talking about
yeah. I was gonna say, like, I was
even
about to start listing the number of cups and everything that everyone's won, and I'm like, wait a minute, you and I can have a private call and have that discussion. So I think
oh,
we've deviated into the private discussion. Yeah.
yeah.
And sorry if I looked distracted a second ago, it's because Steve was literally trying to call me and say, "Hey, final hotel arrangement plans." I'm typing, can't talk. Crap. I'm like, it's just me and Lawrence on camera. Crap. Well, I got to make arrangements. I like grab it. Done. Like, so I'm like, soon as we hit live, everyone wanted to, like, the universe was telling me, don't break kayfabe with Lawrence. This is like our curtain call in 1996.
Yeah, well, I'm
The
waiting for Tony to
the
call me.
click. Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, he'll be watching this, knowing Tony. Oh, no, he'll be on the road.
It's not live, so it doesn't
That's
matter.
right. That's right. It's not live.
No, they're not flying out till Friday. So
Oh,
he's
they're
gonna
not?
watch it
Okay.
in Arizona. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I'm actually going and I'm staying with Aaron the toy enhancer on Thursday. And then we're driving to Augusta.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
we'll be in Atlanta. I said Atlanta. I meant in Georgia. We'll both be in
I
Georgia.
heard you said Atlanta earlier. I wasn't about to correct you
Yeah,
right
I
on the
know.
spot.
Someone right now is just frantically typing, "You're an idiot. Atlanta's not a state." I'm like, all right, get it.
You
All
should
right.
see my history videos. They're like, you forgot this figure, when you're covering 1988. I'm like, that's because it's 1990, that figure. No, I swear it was 88. I'm like, well, then 3D Joe's and YoJo.com are both wrong. And so is Mark Balomo's book, if that's the case. But I'm going to go with that. And if I have to go down with the big ship, I'll go down with the big ship. So yeah, we all get the corrections as well. So.
All right. So you're born in 82, which is, I thought you were closer to our age, which I'm 48, if anyone is wondering. Do you remember like the first toys that you actually had that you played with?
Yeah.
And
He-Man. I have a
yeah. All right, thanks a
feeling.
lot. Whenever my night.
So Voltron, in hindsight,
That's me
like,
asking a question and leading you into giving the answer.
well, like a good angle, I have to pretend I can't play off of you. You know how you're supposed to catch the guy when he falls out of the ring, and instead of doing that, I just walk away and you hit the mat on the outside and go, "Oh, sorry, I meant to catch it, but I didn't." Anyway, there's going to be some wrestling references. Spoiler alert: we're 15 minutes in. There might be a few more wrestling references.
There's always a good chance.
So I remember I get this feeling He-Man aired a bit later in the Philippines because like it would have been closer to end of 85 that I got into He-Man. So like I'm not quite 4 years old yet. And I remember having the actual He-Man, like the proper He-Man and Skeletor, like the first versions, not necessarily the battle armor, right? Because I got those a bit later on. So I played with those. I played the wheels off of those toys. And I feel like I had the Panoche Place version of Voltron. Again, to me as a kid, it was just Voltron, right? And I remember it sitting there on the kitchen table one day, and my parents kind of like pushing it towards me, and I'm like, okay, and I just played the wheels off of that. Transformers came in that era, but a little bit later. Like as I was about to leave the Philippines, I recall getting into Transformers a little bit, and then that really took off for me as far as Transformers was concerned for the next number of years. I didn't even get into Joe's until closer to the Tiger Force Iron Grenadiers era of Joe's. So
before you're 4 years old.
Yeah.
You remember that stuff when you moved to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still have all your stuff, or is it one of those things where you left everything behind and you had to start all over?
I think I started pretty much all over again. I remember I had a few, but not very many, because I remember buying the Transformers Autobot Hound as like the first toy I got in Canada. And then and then coming in, and I get this feeling because Hound was from 1984, so I don't know how I got him in '86, but I guess
Yeah,
things just, they just hold over late internationally, right? And then I remember getting a lot of the '85 and '86 Transformers. So for me, the '86 movie is pretty much prime time for me because I get here and 2 months later that movie airs. And then, I mean, I'm not going to movies at the age of 4. I know some people do, but I didn't. And then, like, not long after they aired it on television, I feel like it might have been the start of '87. They aired it on television, so I grew up very much with that movie and very much with the third season of the Transformers. As much as everyone always says that the third season is the worst of those 3 American seasons of the Transformers, for me, it's like the best memories because that was when I was old enough to like catch it on TV and turn the TV on and try to surf for it and things like that.
and as
So
much as I'll make fun of certain things that people like or that they gravitate to, when when you're a kid and that's what your first memory is, it may not be the best season or series of something that you watch, but it's the memories that it brings back and that
yeah,
time of complete innocence. And in all honesty, no matter how you look at it, it's complete innocence of, hey, wow, like, yeah, maybe the Transformer season wasn't the greatest, but when I watch it and I can think of sitting in that on that couch or what time that it came on or getting home and like that was my brief time of not doing homework, it means a lot, and
absolutely. Right.
I
And
think
those
a lot of
memories
people forget about that.
that you have of Transformers, for me, that would have been more like the Power Rangers era because that was when I was closer to like 11 years old
Mhm.
and just coming home and not having to do whatever. I mean, homework at 11 is not like it was in high school or university, but still, right? You're kind of new to doing homework, so you're like, I'd rather not do it,
All
right?
right,
So
so
I would have those same memories, but for Power Rangers, for
all right,
example,
so
in like
so
'93.
quickly, so anyone in the U.S. watching, Canadians call college university. If you don't know that, all right, just because you said university, a lot of people don't know what university means. It's college.
I know
We
they
call it
call it
college
college
here.
football. I know they call it college football, but like most of the
It would
universities
be
are like,
like the University of Michigan, but it's the college that you're going to. Canadians and other people call it university. You guys
okay,
don't call it college, even though it's the same
okay,
thing. It's the same thing. Although
okay.
I've also been told university is like community college. I might be wrong, but
No,
anything's called
here in Canada, the community college is the actual college, and university is
okay.
supposed to be more prestigious,
Then that's what it is.
right?
So like the University of Michigan, Michigan State University, the Ohio State University.
We know where
They're
this is going.
universities, but we still call it college. So a lot of times when people hear that, and like, see, you didn't realize this either.
No,
We don't call it university. No one will ever say, "Oh, I go to university." They'll
wow,
say, "I go to college."
I
So like, if you
wow,
go to Michigan, you're not going to university. You're going to college. Oh, what college you go to? University of Michigan.
I
That's
did
what my
not
dog
realize
wants.
that. I literally got questions. Where did you go to university?
Yeah.
Or
So
they
you
say,
will
where did you go to university or college?
ask some people when you're at Joe Fest, if you remember. I'll try and remind you. Just ask a couple people, and they'll be like, "I've never heard that," or they'll be like, and I know obviously because I'm well, not obviously, but I'm close to the border, so I've heard it more than other people because I've asked. I'm like, "What the hell does that mean, university?"
Wow.
And
Okay.
usually they'll break it down like I just did, and you're like, I've the amount of stupid things that are the amount of different stupid things that we have between especially between our countries that are right there. But then again, your country can't decide what language they want to speak either. In the middle of the
Well,
country wants
they add a U to a lot of words like favorite and color and all that other stuff. You
but you
know,
have all the French that want to speak French in the middle. And you can't forget the A. How you doing,
A.
A?
How you
But
doing, A?
I don't think people I don't think the side of the country you're on say A nearly as much.
We
But
we do
over
at
here,
times. We do at times, but yeah, not as often.
if I go to Sarnia, oh boy, you'll hear it. Oh, where you from, A? You from the States, A? No, I'm from a state. I'm not from all of them. Uh,
For us, it's more like, pretty good, A. Like and instead of saying right, like we don't just put A on the end of everything, but we say like when we're trying to say right or okay, we use
at
that
the
as
end of
a
sentences.
yes. We actually use it like here on the West, at least the people I associate with. The A actually means something. It's not just there, but we still say
Yeah.
it, right?
So, all right. So you move, you start finding new toys, right?
Yes.
Um, what was the first toys Do you remember what the first toys that you really got into that was your thing?
Yeah, so I mean, once I got that Transformers Hound, which I don't know how that was sitting there in '86, I started getting into a lot of the movie Transformers like Galvatron, Ultra Magnus, Scourge, the Sweeps. I start getting all that, and I just absolutely love it. My brother was into Transformers briefly, so we played a bit here and there. Eventually, he just got into books and got out of toys pretty quickly. So I had my thing with Transformers, and then that never really ended, but I would kind of transition to something else. So like I remember being 5, maybe 6 years old and really getting into real Ghostbusters, right? Because that cartoon was everywhere. So I'd be trying to get Peter Venkman, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I wanted the Ecto One. So I'd be asking for this stuff for Christmas, right? And in some cases, I didn't get the actual Ghostbusters from the first set. I got the Fright Features versions of them, and I was okay with that. But still, so there's that. God, what else was I? There were just so many things, right? Like every year, I felt like I was into something new. Got into Ninja Turtles by the first grade, and everything was about Ninja Turtles. It was about the party wagon, it was about the four turtles, it was about Shredder. Bought more than one foot soldier, and then my cousin had to go and ruin everything by taking me back a few years to start playing with Mask, because by that point Mask was old and fading out.
Yeah,
But I
that's long
guess
gone.
but I guess by 88, 89 or whatever, as it was fading out, it was just relatively new in the Philippines. So he would go to whatever the small Mask section was at the toy stores here, and he would come and he would buy some of those toys, and he would buy like the racing series stuff, and I'd look at them, and I grew up with some Mask because of that reason. So
It's so crazy because you don't have that anymore.
yes.
It's like everything is global, so you don't have that anymore. And I love talking to like Shark Eyes, Fuller's Figures, and all of those guys on the other side of the pond. That it's so crazy to think like their GI Joe wasn't GI Joe. Some it was Action Force. Others I didn't. I thought everyone was getting Action Force. Some of it was Action Force, but some people had GI Joe because it was made by not Palatoy, because Palatoy was Action Force, but there was GI Joe that was made by someone else.
Plastirama, probably.
Mm,
Estrella,
Estrella, that's it. Because
Estrella,
I'm
yeah.
always like, what the? And I want to say it might have been Fuller,
Fuller
Connor. That
figures,
was,
yeah. Connor
yeah,
Connor
the
Fuller,
Connor
yep,
was
yep.
saying that no, this is what we had, and I was like, oh wow, I always thought that everything over on that side was Action Force,
Hmm.
and again, it might have been, and again, I could be completely wrong. It might have been Shark Eyes. I'm not sure exactly which one it was. I've done a lot of these now over the years, but I just thought everyone over there got Action Force, and that's not how it was. And they were also done by different companies. Like you said, Estrella, I think was the other one.
Yeah.
Um,
Estrella,
and that
Plastirama, Fun School. Yeah.
see a Fun School, yeah, Fun School I knew of,
Yeah.
because we have Fun School stuff here. Um,
Yes.
but anyway, so I always find that real interesting how they got things at different times than we did. And again, there was no internet. So to me, I find that very fascinating when you start hearing about it because, now everything's just at the tip of your fingers if you want to find out. But when you actually hear about how they grew up and like what they were getting, it's very interesting. I guess that's the best way to put it. Um,
Yeah, I mean, for when you put it that way, that does make sense, and that's why I like these more casual sit downs, these Thursdays with a friend, because what someone experienced halfway across the globe is not the same as what I experienced, right? Like for me, I got a lot of the mainline stuff, but depending on what part of the globe I was in, it arrived at different times. So here
yeah.
I'm thinking He-Man is new in '85. You know what I mean? And I mean, the Mobile Command Center that I got for my 7th birthday, right? That's 1989. That's February '89. I didn't know that the toy was close to 2 years old by that period in time. I thought it was new, but I guess up here in Canada, they must have bought some overstock, right? Like I've told a story in some places before where I'll never forget going into Toy City, which was the big store we had here in the 80s. And on one end of the aisle was the Mobile Command Center, and on the other end was the Defiant, right? And it had to have been January of '89 because I was trying to pick my birthday gift and I wanted the Mobile Command Center, not realizing they were close to 2 years old. Like that's how crazy it is, right?
But also, we didn't care when we were kids.
No, there's no
It was
reason to
something
care.
we didn't have, or maybe a figure we didn't get. I mean, I
Yes.
know that I never was like, ugh. I mean, you knew when new figures came out because you look at the cross sell,
Yes.
which I didn't know it was called a cross sell till later on in life. being an adult collector. But it's like you didn't care. You weren't crying about it. You didn't cry and go, Mom, that, that, that figure's a peg warmer. It's been sitting. You didn't care. You grabbed it and you just thought that it was cool that, Colonel Hawk was sitting there, or not General Hawk. I don't want to say Colonel Hawk. People will yell at me. Oh, Colonel Hawk didn't come on the cards. Don't say that. General Hawk, Dial Tone. No one wanted to see Shipwreck there. Well, I feel like everyone wanted to see Shipwreck there but me. I had so damn many of them.
Well, I mean, like, because of the era that I transitioned into Joe's, like, yes, I could have gotten into them when I was 4. But of course, my mind was distracted with Transformers. But by the time I got into them closer to the age of 6, maybe 7, I was thrilled to see a Tiger Force Duke because I wanted a Duke to play with at home, right? Like, I didn't have a Duke, so a Tiger Force Duke was my Duke. For example,
I've heard a lot of people say that that Tiger Force Duke is their Duke, and they never had
Iron Grenadiers Destro was my Destro. Battle Armor Cobra Commander was my Cobra Commander. Like, that's just how it was in that era.
I've never had an Iron Grenadier Destro.
No?
No, because by the time the Iron Grenadiers were coming out, I was phasing out of playing with toys. I had the Iron Grenadiers, and I had some of the Python Patrol. I think I actually had all the Python Patrol but one. I never had any of I never had a Slaughter Marauder. I never had Tiger Force. And I never had that Destro. And maybe because Destro also came with the vehicle. So it was going to cost a little bit more. But I always, and again, I can be pretty much of a traditionalist in many ways, but I love that he had that half cape. I thought that was awesome. And the little saw blades or whatever was on him. But I really like the figure, which is crazy. And I do look at it now, and I'm like, I just can't spend the money on it.
I'm going to step away for a minute or two. You can either cut this portion out, or you can make fun of me for not being able to hold my bladder for the whole stream. So I'll let you pick. That's what's the beauty of Thursday with a friend. B R B.
If just so you know, I can quickly do this.
Oh, hey guys. So Lawrence, he had to step away for a little bit. He's got a case of the grumble dust. So he asked me to kind of watch over a stream. He put me in charge of y'all. He said to me, "Oh, Moss Man, I have a case of the grumble dust, and I need you to watch myself for a little bit so nobody leaves and finds out that there's more interesting things to watch on YouTube. And also, I hate Ohio." So I was like, oh, dang, so now I have to come up with a topic for my very own show. And I was like, oh, what about talking about your favorite toy stores? So my favorite toy store is HelloDopeToys.com. So they used to have this really bad website. It used to look real scammy. Like if I gave them money, they were going to go spend it on like blow and hookers. But now their website is really nice. And like I can just go in and do like 1-2 click. And then my order's placed. And they ship super fast, guys. They ship everything in 1 business day. So like I get all my toys first. So when I'm out there on the playground and all my friends are like, oh, dang, Mouse Man, where'd you get that action figure? I still have to wait 17 months for mine. And I'm just like, well, I went to HelloDopeToys.com and I just pushed the buttons and then they shipped it out to me. And the packaging is so nice, guys. Like, I opened up the box and I was like, oh, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this kind of packaging. It's so nice. But then my trash can gets full because of all the packing stuff. And I was just like, oh, dang, I just changed the trash. But now I gotta change the trash again. Oh, you're right, Matthew Matson. You can use the code APWT at HelloDopeToys.com and save 10% on your order. So how that works is, so you're gonna save 10%, and then a Punk with Toys, he has to pay that 10% that y'all saved. So if you don't like Lawrence, you can just go to HelloDopeToys.com and just buy a bunch of stuff and rack up his bill. So then like at the end of the month, they're like, Hello Dope Toys is like, oh, Lawrence, you owe us $1 million because of all the 10% codes that everybody used. And yeah, that's how that works. Okay, guys, so it looks like it's time for me to go now. So make sure you go to HelloDopeToys.com and like and subscribe. And then in the comments, put what your favorite toy store is. But if it's not HelloDopeToys.com, I'm probably just going to delete it, okay? So, all right, guys, bye!
That's
I
your
could have just played that, and you.
that's your commercial break. I love it.
Yeah, you've never seen that before.
Not the whole thing. Like I've tuned in when that's been on before, and I'm like, what's he doing? And then I've like clicked off and come back, and yeah, I didn't realize that it went for as long as it did.
That's the first one, and that's the second one. The first one's only like a minute and a half, but they made that one 2.5 minutes. I'm perfectly fine with that. So I will.
That's freaking awesome. I'm one of those guys who I get myself dehydrated for the whole day. Then before I'm about to sit down to do something like this, I go, "Oh, I'm so thirsty," and I chug like 3 glasses of water. No wonder my bladder likes to say "f you" in the middle of a stream 30 minutes in.
Yeah, it's gonna be hell on you when you're on that plane.
Yeah, but they have actual bathrooms on the plane, but it's just there's usually lineups. God damn it.
How long's the plane ride?
I think it's about 4 or 5 hours to get to Minnesota. Then there's a couple hours to Charlotte after that. So I'm going to be doing the connector flight. So
Of course, I'm
yeah.
driving, so I don't know why I'm like, oh my god, it's so long. I'm driving. That was
No, but I'd rather do a road trip if I had the chance. It's just that it's like a 46-hour road trip if I was to actually do it or something like that, right?
yeah. Well,
So because for me it's like I gotta check in, I gotta wait for the plane, I
yeah.
gotta get on the plane, then I gotta jump out, I gotta get to the next plane, do the same thing, and then I meet Mega J in Charlotte, and then we drive 2.5 hours to Augusta.
Oh, I didn't realize. Oh, okay.
So it's still gonna be a bit of a
If
it's still
one
gonna
of
be a
you
bit of a
guys is
trek.
late, then you're all waiting.
Well, the way it's gonna work is somehow his flight's supposed to arrive an hour and a half before mine. So he will be able to go get the rental car and wait for me in theory. Right. And then I'll just kind of hop in the car and let's go. So yeah.
Okay. Well, we can talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. So, as you start getting a little bit older, did you always collect toys, or did you start to put them away, get into other things as you got into middle school, high school? I know a lot of people, they talk about they gravitated toward comics
Yeah.
because it was something you could collect. It wasn't as dorky as collecting toys,
Mhm.
and you can also hide them from the opposite sex.
Yes, right. There's always the worry of what the other gender is going to think, and even what your own peers at school are going to think, because it's like, I don't do geek stuff, And I think even as I was getting into Power Rangers, it seemed like it was geared towards like 6-year-old kids when I was 11 or 12. Having said that, I still had a bit of a fondness for transforming robots. So I collected them well into my teen years, and I got no problem saying that today. Did I do comics? Yes, because when I was about 10 or 11, Batman's Nightfall series was a big thing, and so was Death of Superman.
I love Nightfall.
I feel like the Nightfall comic issues haven't aged super well, but the whole concept of Nightfall was really good.
You were just talking, weren't you?
Say what? Like last night?
Yes. Was it last night we were
Yes.
talking about it?
We were talking about this last night.
Okay.
All the days kind of blend together, but it was
Yeah.
interesting because there I am, 10, 11 years old, and DC has managed to sideline both Superman and Batman like within a year of each other, and it's just like, whoa, like what is this? So you're growing up trying to like wrap your head around all this, and while that's going on, of course, I grew up in the height of the whole Sega versus Nintendo thing. I was always a Nintendo guy. Literally went
Me
from
too.
the NES to the Super NES to the N64, right?
I was the same way.
Right, and then Sega bowed out of the game, and then I jumped over to the Xbox. So
Oh wow.
yeah, well, actually, that's not true. I had a Dreamcast for a little while, and as soon as I got into Sega, they bowed out. So
The Dreamcast.
I know you haven't heard that one in a while, right?
No, Sega CD.
Sega CD, Sega Saturn, all that stuff, right? So yeah, I mean, I got into all of that.
Jaguar. Don't leave that one out.
Yeah. Genesis. I mean,
Genesis
so
was good. But
I
that's
mean, Genesis. Well, that's where you have the Sega CD attachment, right?
Yep.
And then, I mean, I got into sports a little bit. Now, for like high school teams, you're gonna laugh. The only thing I got to play on the high school team for was golf. That's the only thing I qualified for, right? Not football, not basketball.
I've never played any sports in my life, so
Well,
I didn't
you're a
even
skateboard. You're a skateboard. I guess that falls into a slightly
that
different
wasn't.
niche.
I grew up a skateboarder, so I hated sports till I would say I graduated.
Okay, fair
And
enough.
that's when you
Yeah,
kind of realize, like, why did I hate this? I mean, there was no reason for me. How did I
I
hate
know.
football? Football is so much fun. How did I hate hockey? Uh, Baseball's still boring as hell.
Well, you would have been closer to an adult age, or you would have been an adult when the Red Wings were winning their cups in 97, 98. So you would have been primed to go into that. I mean, you're the same age as Redknock Ryan, right? And he always tells me about how those championship teams were built and everything. And I'll
Oh,
be up here being a Canucks fan. I mean, I was the first time we went to the finals was in 94 and I was 12. And it was one of my favorite memories because we were an underdog and we went all the way to game 7 against the President's Trophy winner that year, who did not have a salary cap, against the New York Rangers. And it was just fun, just fun to like watch sports. I played floor hockey, learned how to ice skate, never played ice hockey. But yeah, played basketball in elementary a little bit, but for high school sports, it was like I had a year of golf and that was it. Right. So anytime anyone says, were you ever into high school sports? Does golf count? They're like, well, we meant football or basketball in high school, but okay, that counts, I guess. Sure.
But so was Tiger Woods would have been around when you were in high school, right?
Yes, he got big when I was closer to 17, and that was the year that I was on the golf team.
So that makes
right.
sense. And for the record, my ex's new old, somewhat kind of maybe I don't know boyfriend said that Olivia, my daughter, she should play golf because even though she's never showed any interest, she's never watched it. He said that there's so many female golf scholarships that don't get used that even if she's decent, she could probably get a scholarship.
Wow.
And she just has athletic ability. She picked it up. She doesn't like watching it, but she enjoys going out and playing. And it's not for me. And I remember.
Whoa. Hey, the big golf tournament every year. I mean, there's a few majors, but I think one of the really big ones is the Masters, and that's in Augusta, right? There's the whole green jacket tradition for the winner every single year. The only sport I know where like the green jacket is like the main trophy. It's kind of cool, kind of different, right? I think the U.S. Open might predate the Masters a little bit. I'd have to double check my facts on that, but we're not here to talk golf.
I mean, I have no. I mean, I'm not going to act like I know. I just know that I hate golf. But we'll move on. If it helps my daughter get a scholarship, especially to the University of Michigan, awesome. Because that school is expensive. All right, so you go into high school. You still collected toys, you said, right?
A little more on and off at this point in time, because for me in high school, I lived my life around Monday Night Raw and eventually Thursday SmackDown, right? So
I remember the first SmackDown. So
was that the one? Did Chris Jericho show up on that one, or was that a bit later? Anyway, no, he showed up on Raw.
I don't actually remember it, but I remember it, and I'm like, I cannot believe they're naming a show after The Rock's.
Yes,
one of The Rock's taglines. I can't think of what it's called.
one of his monikers, to put it that way.
Yeah,
he invented the word SmackDown, basically.
Pretty much, like if no one ever used it. That word was never used. But the fact that they didn't do something, Steve Austin had said, or how surprisingly they didn't do something that DX said, because at that point, Vince was doing anything that Shawn Michaels wanted him to do.
We have this whole thing for people who are in the audience. I'm a Brett guy,
but I'm being serious about it. Like you know as well as I do, Vince pretty much did everything that Shawn wanted for quite some time. But the fact that they didn't say something that the Undertaker did, it was what the Rock used to say, and it works. I mean, I can't imagine anything that Steve Austin would have said would have made a better name for a TV show.
Well, The Rock is widely considered the best, mic man in the game. I know it's debatable, but he's the one who always had people kissing.
I don't really want to put him down. I just, I think, and I love The Rock. Like I liked The Rock when he was Rocky Maivia, and then when he came back as The Rock for the Nation of Domination, I thought it was awesome. So I liked The Rock from when he came out with whatever he was wearing, where it looked like it was like a cut up outfit, and his hair. But I was the same way. Like I was big into Raw. I loved the Monday Night Wars. waiting to see what next WWF wrestler was going to show up on Nitro was exciting.
Or the other way around eventually.
Eventually, but by that time, once it started, once WWF started overtaking them, it was still the people that were waiting, thinking the NWO was something new. It was the rest of the actual wrestling fans that went, all right, well, he bought up all their gimmicks. Now it's ended. He doesn't know how to create new storylines.
You're talking about Bischoff and Russo, and
yeah, they didn't know what to do, and Vince had finally turned the corner. And I hate to say it, but the moment Bret Hart went over there, the ratings went.
I noticed that. I thought you might bring that up.
It's a fact.
Hey, Sean retired by that point, so.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. So, where you going? Where you were going with that argument?
I wasn't going to say anything about it. Shawn Michaels. I know we're off on a tangent, guys, and luckily there's some wrestling fans I know watching. Shawn Michaels, when you look at his career, it is looked at more spectacular now than when he was actually doing it.
Yes.
Because nobody wanted to see a little guy wrestle. Nobody could believe that a little guy could beat the Undertaker. Now, when you look back in retrospect and go, the stuff he was doing, he changed the way people talked on the mic. He changed the way people thought of a little person. And again, when you're talking about a small wrestler, you're talking about some guy that's like 6 foot, 6'1", and 220 pounds. That's not a small man in real life. All right. That is a pretty large man in real life, to be honest. All right. The problem is Hulk Hogan is 6'8", almost 300 pounds. Well, it was. He shrunk a little bit.
And he was the flagship guy, right?
Yeah.
Like Shawn Michaels, when they had that ladder match in WrestleMania 10 with Razor Ramon, it was a fun match. But how many times have you seen people like take that scene where he's jumping off the ladder and they slow-mo it with all the flash bulbs going off to make it seem, even more It was a fun moment. But they make it seem like, whoa, you were around for that, but for us, it was just a splash off of the top of the ladder, or near the top of the ladder.
And the other thing, I was just talking to Elite Series when I was on his show, and he's a wrestler and he works in the wrestling business. And we were talking about how wrestling goes and how people, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's how you entertain the crowd. And he'll say it like it's all about receipts, right? If you're losing and you are doing, and people are remembering you, you're going to get that title. Like you're going to get those wins back. People seem to forget that Shawn Michaels did not win the ladder match.
I know.
But guess what? That ladder match is only special. And Razor Ramon is an underrated wrestler. Scott Hall is an underrated wrestler.
He's pretty good, yeah.
But let's be honest. That match is spectacular because of him. The Hell in a Cell is spectacular because of him. Not because of what The Undertaker did. The Undertaker was just there, right? What Shawn Michaels did in that, and I'll say it again, that first Hell in a Cell is way better than the Mick Foley one. The Mick Foley one is more memorable because
the spots.
Yes.
Does Kane not get an honorable mention for that first Hell in a Cell?
Okay, well,
ripping the cage door.
If you would have listened to my last on my show with Elite Series, I said I hate the end of that because it did not give a proper ending to Shawn Michaels winning that match. Because Kane comes in, rips off the door. It was a great way to showcase Kane and bring him into the light to have this feud, but it takes away from how amazing that match actually was.
It was a good match. Okay, fair enough. If you
go and watch that compared to the Mankind one and look at the actual wrestling and the spots that they do, the Shawn Michaels one is 10 times better. There are two things that happen. Well, there's two big spots, and there's a few things that happen with that spot. Like watching Mick Foley get off the gurney and come running back in, and I remember watching it live going, dude, it's over. Dude. Like, it's like, you don't, like, you're done. Like, and then he climbs up on it, and you're like, how are they getting off this? And to this day, it's like, how were you going to get off it? Because you weren't supposed to go through the ring. You weren't supposed to go through the top of it.
Yes.
That was the byproduct. So what was your plan to get off there? You couldn't get thrown off again. So anyway, that's enough about wrestling. Because we'll be here. You only have a limited amount of time.
Yeah, I know. I lose track of time when I talk wrestling. I was about to ask you, well, then who made the Iron Man match? But that's going to be a whole nother 30 minutes.
You mean the Iron Man match between him and Sean? Brett and Sean?
Between Brett and Sean, yeah. But then that's a whole other 30-minute discussion.
I think for an Iron Man match to work, I really do believe that both competitors have to be at their top, or else it becomes boring. Like Shawn Michaels couldn't be Shawn. No one, whether it be Shawn or Brett, could have done an Iron Man match for 1 hour plus, because obviously there was
the overtime. Yeah,
the overtime. You couldn't have it one way. You could not have Hulk Hogan in an Iron Man match doing his few spots that he could do.
Mm-hmm.
Both people had to possess wrestling skills. That is what made the you're gonna be happy with this. The Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog, who was my favorite wrestler, and he beat Bret Hart. Go figure. Bret Hart keeps getting beat for some reason. That match.
We're gonna keep going.
That match between Bret Hart and the Bulldog was awesome.
At Wembley. Yeah.
Yeah. WrestleMania 3, where I was at with 93,173 of my best friends. And we watched, you watched Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Macho Man. One of those people could not have made that match awesome. It was awesome because
it was both.
Yes.
Yes.
The Andre Hogan match was amazing because of who they were and how big they were. And literally
they sold the event. Macho and Steamboat stole the show.
Yeah, but when you, again, looking at that as a kid in a sea of over 93,000 people in the Pontiac Silverdome, you're not looking at the screens on top. Those two people were so big, you could see them in the ring, and it's not like I was close. All right, enough of that, because we'll never get out of here. So we made it to high school.
Yes.
You're hiding your love for toys, your Transformers. Don't worry, we all did. No, but you got into sports. Now, as you graduate, did you go on to university?
I did, and I did study up here, about 30 minutes away from where I live right now. And funny thing is, I did have a little bit of a music phase. Like, I actually asked. Well, no, I could buy it on my own at that period of time, but I did actually go and get a guitar for a little while. The only thing I needed to ask for permission for was because I got an electric. Can I leave the amplifier and the guitar at home? Because it takes up space, right? So I go and I buy that, and I start playing, start jamming with friends, things like that. And that was probably the furthest I got away from toys and comics and the whole hobby, because that's when I kind of got caught up in everything and started listening to 90s grunge even more closely. Like, I knew what it was growing up, but then I kind of paid more attention to it when I could.
I'm sorry.
And like classic rock and things like that. Metallica was my favorite band for a few years there. Don't say you're sorry on that.
I am, but that's okay. They had to listen. Their first few albums were pretty good. Then they went all ballad in the Black Album, and
I think they went ballad. The Black Album's the transition point. I thought they went ballad after that. But anyway,
you can have your opinion. I'll listen to my punk.
Yeah, okay. Punk with toys. Punk with toys. Yeah. So it's the third year of university. At this point, my sister's living out east. She's living in Boston. We go to visit her and her husband, and for whatever reason, I see season 2 of the Transformers available for like $36. I go, I
on
pick
VHS?
it up. No, on DVD.
That must have been,
I'm like,
that had to be early years, right?
It was 2002 by this point, because we're in university / college. I've kind of jumped to the third year of that because I mentioned the music part in the first couple of years, and then I bring it back to her apartment at the time, and I play. I'm just like, I feel like a kid again. I come back here, started 2003. I'm not even 21 years old yet. I start like looking up like secondhand shops in town, and sure enough, there were actually like specialty stores in my area. So that reignited my love for Transformers, and I collected a bunch of that. And then sometime like around summer of 2003, I started grabbing a few Joes, picking away at a few Joes here and there, and that just sort of reignites things. And I'm still kind of into video gaming at this point in time. You know, I'm playing Halo like I did with my kid a little bit earlier on. And yeah, so I'm collecting G1 Transformers. I'm collecting a little bit of GI Joe. As university ends, I start getting into Marvel Legends, right? And it just snowballs for the next like
Now,
almost 20 years to now.
do you mind me asking what you went to school for?
I don't share it with everyone. I did go to school for civil engineering.
Okay.
I mean, I don't share that with everybody. Just, I mean, we're among friends here, right? Most of the people who watch this are your friends. So, yeah, so that's what I went to school for. And I graduated in 2005, stayed an extra year to do an internship. I guess they call that a co-op program here.
Now, is
Basically, you
that the
work as an
field that you're
intern.
in now? Do you mind me asking? I mean, you don't have to.
Yes,
You don't have to say
yes,
where you
I
work.
am. I don't work so much in like engineering design anymore, more so than I work in like planning and cost estimating,
Okay.
on that side of the fence. So like the traditional engineering is more about design and implementation as opposed to like planning and
So that
planning and cost
really seems
estimating.
to play into what you're doing with Delta 17, but we'll get into that a little bit.
Not as much as you might think, but it does
Okay.
help. It does help when you have discussions with other people, right? Like
Okay.
it sort of like pads the pedigree for it. But if toys are more mechanical engineering than they are civil,
No,
right?
I was talking about
And
costing and
planning.
stuff
Oh
like that.
yes, yes, it
That
definitely does
seems like it would
help with
help.
that because it wasn't, it wasn't. It's not like I don't take a spreadsheet and dial everything in for Steve and then say here's what it's going to be. Because when we had to plan our tooling costs, he was just uttering numbers at me, and then I sort of just plugged it all onto a spreadsheet and sent it back to him. And he's like, I guess this week, I guess we can use this. So, yeah,
All right. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
we'll put a pin. We'll put a pin in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got back into toys around, you said 2005.
2002, 2003, get into toys. Yeah.
So
Graduate 2005 from university.
graduate. Do you mind me asking about when you got married, and are you
Uh,
collecting? Are you collecting during this time that you're dating? You know, as a young adult and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I bought my first home like under my own name in 2000 and end of 2007, start of 2008. I bought my first home under my own name, and I put the toys into a den room, right? And the reason why it was in the den room is I could close the door if I wanted to. Anyone's got a question? Ah, yeah, my roommate's room. No one knows, right? Eventually it starts to spill out into the living room of the apartment and everything. And at that point, it's just shameless at that point in time. But yes, I continued to collect. I would take breaks and gaps here and there if I just got bored of it. But if I got bored of it, it was because I'd be playing video games or I'd be reading comics, right? Or I'd be binge watching a television series in the early days of streaming. Right?
Yeah.
So it'd be something to that effect. So yeah, and I didn't get married until 2013.
All right.
But I was still collecting up to that point. And then in the time before my kid was born in 2015, I started purging. Like that's why you don't see a lot of Marvel Legends in my collection, because
Okay.
I just basically got rid of my entire Marvel Legends collection, like underselling my Build-A-Figures and everything by a long shot, telling myself I'm going to get out of toys. I start selling some modern Transformers. My kid's born and I realized, I can have both, right? The one thing I don't share with everyone is I got very ill during the time between like end of 2012 to the beginning of 2016. I didn't know what was going on with me digestively. Come to find out in February of 2016, I get diagnosed with Crohn's disease, right? So your digestive system's always angry at you until you get medicated, and I have to get IV infusions every 6 weeks, in order to keep my immune system and my digestive system from basically turning itself inside out. I'm in recovery after a surgery, and yeah, I'm still a toy collector at this point. But it was in 2016. I was like in recovery, and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna lean into the toy things even harder. And I start buying up collections so that I can expand my collection beyond, Transformers and GI Joe at this point. And I actually start collecting wrestling. Right? Yes, I was always a wrestling
So
fan.
you're buying collections from people like a toy shop.
Locally, I'm just buying
Okay.
collections. Like, I wanted to collect Ghostbusters. I bought somebody's Ghostbusters collection. They had a bunch of extras, and that's why you see me do toy shows and have the table at the toy shows, because now
all right.
that's how that started, because it got to a point where like somebody wanted to sell his whole Ghostbusters collection for like $100, and I'm like, there's like $600 worth of stuff in here, but I only need the yellow ghost for Winston at that point, because I had the rest of my collection. I'm like, can I give you $15 for that ghost, which is good value for him? You can sell the rest. He's like, no, you got to take the whole thing. I'm like, okay, give him $100. I take the ghost. I upgrade my collection with whatever has nicer paint or nicer condition, and I sell the rest. And next thing you know, it all piles up. And now I'm doing toy shows from 2016 to, well, present day. That's why you see me do those hunts, toy hunt videos in my area. That's why I've always got a booth at the shows. Right. And it allows me to kind of cull my collection as well. Like if I just decide, I don't want to collect this, like if I stop collecting Black Major G.I. Joe stuff, I got a place to sell it. Right. Etc. Right. And in the world of modern Transformers, there's always a big turnover, right? Like you could buy a Power of the Primes Optimus. They release a Siege one. Oh, I like that one better. They release an Earthrise one. I would like that one better. You just keep selling and upgrading, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's easier to. It seems like it'd be easier to sell some of the modern stuff rather than vintage stuff. Like I would have a hard time getting rid of it if I was a Transformers. Like I would have a hard time getting rid of G1 stuff just because it's the original, and you can upgrade it, but it's not gonna. In my opinion, it wouldn't fit together. It's like the GI Joe stuff. I can't get myself to get rid of any O-ring figures that I don't already have.
That's fair. And I do have a hard time unless I'm upgrading something in the collection. Like if I had something, like let's just say you've got the Cobra Viper pilot, right? Like that thing, like say you have one that has just no logo on it, because that's all the values in the logo. So you find one in the collection, you go, oh cool, I'm gonna hang on to this. Sell the rest.
But that's what I'm saying. Like you still have one.
But you'll still have one, right? Like the one in my collection right now, like half the logo is still there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm happy with that. I've not found a good one since. Right? Especially in a collection where you just pick out because someone's just saying, here, take the whole collection for $250 or whatever it is. That's Canadian, so that's not that much money. Right.
And I was actually talking about on the Elite Series that I sold my original, my childhood Mauler. I had two of them. One didn't have the guts in it, which is awesome. Someone took it out. So now you could push it, which is something you couldn't do with that in the Mobat. But I acquired one that was almost mint, other than it was missing 2 mud flaps. That's the only thing that it's missing. And I sat on them for quite some time. And when I looked at how much the Mauler I had from my childhood, and it still worked, I went and tested it. Matter of fact, you can see the short with the driving over weights and everything. When I saw how much I could get for it, I'm like, there's no reason to keep this. I don't have the room anymore to display multiple Maulers. I'm not getting rid of the one that doesn't have the guts in it because really it's more of a waste of time than anything. And I like having 2 of them. I didn't really need 3 of them. So I did that. I got rid of one. I got rid of like one of my Stingers because I had multiple Stingers. And I got rid of one of my Hiss tanks because I had multiple Hiss tanks. I still do. So it's still an issue. But like I have 5 Sky Strikers. They're all different Sky Strikers. They're all different types of F-14s. So I wouldn't get rid of one of them because I don't have an extra one. But I've gotten rid of the shells of the 85 or 84 Sky Striker, which is the original one. Like I've gotten rid of shells of it. I've printed up 3D weapon, like 3D missiles and seats to go with it, and said, hey, these have 3D, here's the shell of it. It doesn't have a canopy. It has working landing gear, and it doesn't have missiles and seats, but here's 3D printed ones to go with it. A lot of people just want it for the collection, so they don't care, and those things will get you $100 right there.
Yes, absolutely. See, if I'm thinking about getting rid of something vintage, it's a difficult decision to make. Yeah. Sometimes I'll just be like, well, maybe I'll just buy the box for it, and I can tuck the box in over there. I do that instead. Now that works a certain number of times till you go, man, I'm just further enabling this. When the goal was to get it out of the way, I've now given it a more prestigious spot in the collection, but it's further higher up. I don't have to put it on one of these shelves. I can put it above. Now I'm running out of space up there.
I love that.
If you tilt the
my gosh,
that I'm out of space up there.
I didn't realize
completely out of space.
I didn't realize that thing went that high.
Yeah, that's how high this the background here goes, right?
How low does it go? Like how? I mean, I guess I don't know. My God, like that seems extremely tall.
Well, I'm also not a very big human being,
No. But I'm just
right?
saying in general, like that's a lot of shelving going all the way up like that.
Well, if you look at the other, if you look at the other wall, right, that's the opposite wall, like directly. And I'm just taking the camera out, and you can see how kind of how low it goes, and you go up there, and you kind of see all my mask vehicles as
Wow.
well. So there's quite a bit there, and then there's a whole lot in the garage, right? Like the
Yeah.
Boulder Hill is not displayed,
Yeah.
the flag is not displayed, the Terradrome is
People
not displayed, Fortress Maximus is not displayed.
people don't see this, but after the shows, a lot of times people talk for a while. Ken is always walking through his kitchen into his garage, putting stuff away. And I was
Yeah.
like, "You hiding that from your wife?" Like,
Well, remember the night we jumped on Oz's, right? And I came home and I had like this massive box of Black
yes,
Series stuff here. And I think even before the stream was over, I was like pulling stuff out. I'm like, Oz, you need this? Anything that he didn't need or that people didn't need, I like put a price tag on it. I dumped it into the sales bin, and then I'm like, ooh, Qui-Gon, that goes in the collection. Like things like that, right? Because I jumped on. I wanted to jump on to chat with the rest of you, and I just had this box of stuff that was there. And yeah, and when the stream was over, I was putting everything away, and
good
just
stuff.
yeah.
All right, so you talked about 2016. You were diagnosed before. Were you diagnosed before that?
I knew something was up before that, but they wouldn't fully diagnose me because there's a bit of a procedure. They do an MRI, they got to do a colonoscopy. They might even do an ultrasound before that if they don't, if they suspect it's something else. But there was no family history, so they're like, this is usually a hereditary disease. So what's going on with you? So I was officially diagnosed in 2016, but I knew something was up for years before that. And that kind of thing weighs on your conscience, or not so much your conscience, it weighs on your confidence because you're like, my stomach's always unwell. I don't want to leave the house, kind of thing. I still have days I don't want to leave the house because of it, right?
Yeah.
So 2016, see, you got to bear in mind that while we do see
Hold on.
a little bit
Hold
of
on. Stop looking. Thank you. There's nothing worse than having a wet spot on your bed and it's not from a female.
Roman. So basically what happened to me was you know how toy collecting can be a bit, the personalities can be interesting, right? And I'm not going to talk about people we know online today in the community. I'm going to talk about like locally, right?
Yeah.
I did have like local community friends who were a little bit on the competitive side. Oh, you got that? Well, I got to buy that, and there was a little bit of like, I get a lead on an item and they're like, yeah, but you don't really need that. Why don't you pass the deal on to me? Huh? You do it once and then it ends up being like an entitlement, right? Instead of like you did them a favor, they did you a favor because they saved you the money when really they just wanted it for their collection. When I got into the Crohn's thing, made me learn not to care about those kinds of individuals locally. And very quickly I got rid of, one person in particular was very judgmental over everything I bought, because he lived in the same building as me when I lived in my condo. So if I threw mail away, he'd be like, "Oh, what'd you get from Big Bad Toy Store?" And I'd be like, "Are you going through my mail?" Like, no,
God.
I saw the recycle bin with you, and your name was on top, and it said Big Bad Toy Store. I just want to know what you got. I'm like, do you know how that sounds, man?
That's
And
creepy as shit.
it is. So like when I got into buying collections, he's like, "Oh, look at you, big shot seller." And normally that kind of sarcasm would have affected me, but when I went through the Crohn's thing, I was like, I really don't have time for you right now. Like, I'm just so relieved that my insides aren't trying to eat themselves. I'm done explaining myself. And like, you've given me tips before about this. Dreadnought Ryan's given me tips about this before. Like, don't worry too much about the comment section and what people think. And for online purposes, I'm still learning that because online, it's there forever. It's out there in social media. In my real personal life, I've learned not to care because I went
Yeah.
through that experience and it like purged it from my mind. So if I hear, oh, so and so who used to live in the same building and collect with you, he says you're an a-hole. I don't care. Don't even tell me. Don't even tell me he exists still. You know what I mean? Because when I went through all that, right, that's when I learned. That's what it took for me to like walk away from that aspect
Yeah.
of my personal life and the judgmental collector that lived down the hall, right? Like you'd think if you had a collector who lived down the hall from you, you'd be like best buds, right?
You would think so.
Right? As opposed to
But
like, oh, yo, you spent $5 more than I would have, but whatever helps you sleep, Ken. I'm like,
I
huh?
mean, everything that you're saying happened with skateboarding, where, and I tell this story. There's a guy that he was way better than me. I mean, he was one
Mhm,
of the best people around here, and he was
mhm.
an asshole. I mean, he's dead now, so I don't really care. Um, it- Basically, he drank himself and did
Okay,
drugs.
fair enough. Fair
Drank
enough.
himself to death. To his insides were pretty much liquefied.
Mm,
Anyway, I found this out in the past few years, but he was better than everyone, right? And I
mhm,
can remember skating, and I was good. All right, I would do a trick, and then he would go and do the trick right behind me. Now I don't really care that someone does the same trick, but this was a trick that you never see him do. But I just watched him do two tricks that were way harder than I did, and that I couldn't do. And I just remember looking at him and I'm thinking, dude, I know you can do it, asshole. You just had to show me that. Oh, I can do that too. You just did a frontside blunt slide and a nose blunt slide across the thing that I did a lip slide. You
mhm.
mean I know what those are, but if anyone's listening, those tricks are way harder than what I just did. So now, if doing that trick was something I saw you do all the time, you wouldn't think about it. But you went and did that trick just because, and he did that numerous times to me because he didn't like me. And there's been lots of people like that, and it's the same concept. It's like,
That reminds me
like
exactly of the person that I was my friend for the longest time,
yeah,
right?
like I,
So,
I know you're better than me. I don't really care. I'm here to
mhm.
have fun and do what I can do.
Yep. And it's funny because like that person had a much bigger Transformers collection than me. G1 stuff, he got in way earlier. He was a few years older. He sourced out better deals. And it was exactly like that. It was like he had a nicer collection with more stuff, and he was kind of like, "Hey, so how's life in the middleweight division?" Like he would talk to me like that.
Wow.
And I'd be like, "Excuse me?" He'd be like, "Well, I didn't call you a lightweight. I'm not insulting you." I'm like, "But what you said was so passive aggressive. That's like, like it's okay that you're a middleweight because I'm a heavyweight." And that's kind of how he always
Yeah.
looked at it,
So,
right? And he would try to soothe it by being like, "No,
yeah.
but you're the middleweight champion. You have Omega Supreme. I have the rare Metro Titan." Okay. And so I it was, but the Crohn's experience, as much as I hated it, because I was contending with that issue because he wasn't sympathetic to my Crohn's. When I couldn't hang out, I'm like, I'm busy and I have health issues. He'd be like, I'm sure that's part of the reason. And I'm like, I can barely get up. And you're trying to tell me, I'm sure that's part of the reason you don't want to see me.
You know
I'm
what?
like, and so for me, it was like, that's what taught me not to care about those kinds of people locally, at least, because there's a few of them locally. And I was like, I'm not trying to turn this into an event session. I'm trying to turn it into
No,
like
no.
an epiphany session. Like 2016, I was like, oh my God, you could throw every name in the book at me right now, and I would not care. Right. Again, I still struggle with social media anxiety, but like personal anxiety in real life, if I walk by them down the street, I would hardly recognize him now because I went through something worse that
Yeah.
made me think that just get over to the side.
You're
You
always
can't.
gonna have assholes in your life, and
Yeah.
again, when people you care about, you know, yeah, that type of stuff may affect you.
That was
For
it because
me,
the person moved
again,
into the I don't care part of my I kind of
yeah,
compartmentalized that
and
human being,
I know we've
right?
we've discussed. Just gotta let things go. Like someone,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
once people know that they can get to you, I sit there and I ignore comments like crazy, and
Yes. That
and
I still
and then I
struggle
go
with,
back to them.
right?
I go back to them, and if you're a channel member, sometimes you'll hear me read them on the members only mean comments when I do that because I don't really care. Like you're not affecting me. Like nothing that anyone says on this platform is going to make me lose a minute of sleep. With that said, I don't sleep very much, so I don't even know if I would notice if I lost any sleep. But it's one of those things. And yes, we've discussed it, and we're not. I don't want to get into that. Our feelings, and Ryan has obviously told you the same things, and you just gotta let some things go. And you know,
Yeah.
I know you're trying,
Yeah.
but again, it's how everyone is built.
Yeah.
I've
Like
always been built where All right, I don't give a shit. Like I ain't gonna.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I had cared too much for too long. That what finally made me not care was something completely different. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and caring too
You
much.
know, it was like, you get jabbed a bunch of times, then suddenly you get stabbed one day. The jabs don't hurt anymore,
Yeah, and caring
right?
caring too much isn't the worst thing. I've
Yeah,
been told that I'm extremely cold, that I don't have emotions, and I dated a girl for a short bit that said, "Oh," she goes, "No," she goes, you're very emotional. Like you're very emotional about the people and the things you care about. You just don't really care about the things you don't. Like you don't let it get to you. There's a
yeah,
huge difference. You're
there
not
is, there
she
is.
said you're not sentimental is what it is. And I went,
That's just it.
that's a really good way to look at it.
That's a very good way to kind of
And my
frame that
ex,
whole thing.
my ex is like, you never handled your mom's death threat. I'm like, oh, dude, like first off, that was a long time ago, and I'm not one of those people that says I'm not one of those people who will ever say that um, counseling isn't for anyone. It just hasn't been for me. Like it's not something that I felt that I needed. I dealt with that a long time ago, and maybe you
Mhm,
don't think it's the right way, but I've never been harmful to myself or harmful to other people.
mhm,
It's like I accepted what happened, and I learned to live a specific way. I like who I am. A lot of people
mm.
can't say that. I like who I am.
You do come off confident. Let's put it that way. Like you're not trying to please anyone. Like we talk about content creation all the time, right? You turn the camera on and you're very real. I'll just peel the curtain back behind you right now. For me, what I do, I angle the camera a certain way. I angle the light a certain way. I throw a certain amount of product in my hair. I distance the camera exactly a certain way. I do 3 or 4 takes and I watch my inflections in every single one. Then the closest, the perfect one is the one that makes it into the video. And that's okay from some perspective, but also you're beating yourself up on
Mhm.
every single take that you get wrong, right?
Yeah,
And it's like you're constantly like apologizing to yourself for not being good enough. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like your viewership is very similar to mine.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
Like
people,
your live chat's actually more active. You know what I mean?
yeah, and
So,
people don't have to like listening to you, just don't
mhm,
like you.
there you go.
But
See?
at the same, and again, I say it numerous times, and I'm not really the best person to always say this because I've been an asshole in my life. But okay, your opinion, like, did you really need to say such a shitty comment? I assume we're mostly adults. I'm almost 50. I'm not going in other people's chats that I don't like and attacking those people. I'm not going to go ruin someone else's live stream or their videos because to me, it's not worth it. I'm just not going to watch. And if I disagree, then I disagree. And I could talk to actual friends and be like, did you hear what this guy said? Like, it's total BS, right?
That's really rich. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so
But anyway,
I think you wanted to ask me something about Delta 17 before we wrap up here.
well, I want to get into YouTube first, and then
Sure. Let's do that.
So when did you start? When did you start creating YouTube content? Like
April,
actual content, not like I started a YouTube channel in 2010, and I didn't do anything for 8 years.
so April of 2021 is when I started doing content, and surprise, surprise, my first video was a Bret Hart video. I look back at it. I'm not very proud of it. I know. I I look back at it. I love Bret, but I'm not very proud of my production, right? And then, like you and me, sometimes follow content creators like Nick Nimmin who give a lot of advice on how to up your production value, how to update your descriptions, how to use your end screens every little bit, how to hook people in to the conversation you're having. And you and I listened to him to varying degrees. But I studied Nick Nimmin for the whole first summer that I got into YouTube. And then just every single time I try to improve one thing here, one thing there. And then eventually I just leaned really heavily into toy histories, right? I didn't know what I wanted to be back in 2021. I did some comparisons, like I'd be like, okay, this version of the Ultimate Warrior and this version of the Ultimate Warrior. And people did appreciate the insights, but I was like, yeah, but I want something even more timeless than just comparing two figures together. You know what I mean? And that kind of content can still happen.
Yeah,
But I do I that's when I started leaning more into like toy histories, deep cuts, characters we don't know about. And you never know when you're gonna need that knowledge. Because I mean, I think you saw my video from about Glenda from the Dragonfly campaign.
Yes.
Last year, right? Like people were surprised how quickly I put that together, because that's just when you're kind of just constantly looking stuff up, and in that particular case, I almost bought one at the Joe Fest a few days before.
Yeah,
So
I
it was
remember
even
you.
more fresh in my mind.
I
So
remember
like,
all those streams and talks that people were bitching because they didn't know who she was, and this was all Emily's fault because Emily's trying to woke everyone. And you're like, I was just gonna buy this, and it was what, $800?
6, but yeah.
6.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
it's probably
sorry.
worth more than 8, but 6 because of the condition. It was complete, but the condition wasn't very good. Like her chrome was no good. But yeah, you're right. A lot of people were like, "Well, I guess I'm okay with this figure now." I'm like, "Really?" Like I talk about Glenda for 5 minutes, and now like, but still, there are a lot of people in the comments who were still like, "This doesn't matter if you said this or not. I still feel they're pushing an agenda." And I'm like, okay, I wasn't saying yay or I don't think they were, but I wasn't saying yay or nay. I was just saying here's the backstory because
So,
I had it in my back pocket.
I'm sorry, the whole agenda thing on a figure that is from how many years ago, and
I
all they're saying
know,
is, "Hey,
I
here you
know.
go. This is a figure, but Argentina, right? Argentinian
Yes, she was from the
figure.
Plastirama series too. Yes,
Here you go. It's not one that you have to have in your collection. It's perfect for a HasLab. Oh, pushing your agenda on me. Gotta have a female. No, that female already existed.
they probably went to their database and Googled the word helicopter pilot, and she was probably one of the only other ones that they didn't want to put in the main line. I'm like,
Yeah.
to me, it made sense. But yeah, so like just constantly researching has me with the ability to be able to kind of turn a video around like that very quickly if I have to. That assumes I have the time that day to do it.
Yep.
Right. If I'm working that day, well, I guess that video's not coming out for a few days.
And
Right.
that's another thing people don't realize is how much time that we actually spend.
Oh,
And I
God.
tell people, hey, it's none of your concern because you just want to see our videos and however they're done or our live streams. But understand, we spend a lot of time in these chairs doing this for everyone. And
Mhm.
again, it's like an actor. I say it's an actor. You don't see how much time they put in to make that 23-minute sitcom. The athletes, I don't want to talk about athletes because they complain that they have to work too many days, especially basketball players. Okay, so I know you're really into the history stuff, and you do a wonderful job. And you
Appreciate that.
timed the Iron Claw one perfect. The Texas
Von
Tornado
Erichs,
family,
yes.
the Von Erichs.
Yes.
That's it. You timed it perfect, and you knew what you were doing, and it's smart. Okay, it's smart. You knew that thing was coming out. You knew people were going to go on YouTube to see if this was even close, who the Von Erichs were before you timed it perfect, and I commend you for that because I think it's awesome. It takes a long time. It takes a lot more time to create a video like what you did than what I do with my reviews, where it's like, boom, I got the figure. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to look at it, record it. I'm done within an hour. You put all this time and effort into it. But where do you see your YouTube channel going from here?
I've always like within about 6 months of me starting the channels when I started doing histories on like LJN wrestling and things like that. And I just wanted to be this back catalog where you can go to and there's a reference. Like I just did a Mythic Legions video a few days ago. Right. And that was like the lore of Mythic Legions and the rise of Four Horsemen Studios. I want to keep doing videos like that and videos on toy history. So you've got this back catalog. You can just search Toy Kennections, G.I. Joe, Toy Kennections, Transformers, Toy Kennections, Motu, and you can just find it, right? Toy Kennections, LJN Wrestling. Eventually there'll be a Visionaries video. Eventually there'll be a Cops video. I just want to kind of build that so that maybe it's cheesy to say I kind of want to leave the toy space in a better place than when I got in, even if I don't really move the needle, but I made some people happy, I just want to be like, yeah, just have that catalog.
You're moving the needle because you hit 5,000 subscribers and then you hit 6,000 really quickly.
I mean, I hope so. I mean,
you hit 6,000. You went from 5 to 6 relatively quickly. Because but at the same time that you hit 5,000, I think I was just hitting 4,000, and I'm not even close to 5,000 yet. So, you had some videos that obviously took off, but it's not just that. People are listening to you because they enjoy what they hear coming out of you.
I appreciate that.
I don't think everyone wants to hear what comes out of me. I think I've capped out at I think I hit 5,000. It's gonna be about my cap of how many people can stand listening to me, and I'm fine with that.
I
I'm
think
doing
it depends on what hits, because you get enough of those early reviews, because you will get because you will
well.
suddenly get a figure, and then suddenly 9,000 views in like 2 days. You know what I mean?
Well,
It takes me a
unfortunately,
long time to get to 9,000.
Shark Eyes seems like he's going to be getting every single new figure before everyone else, so and months before it. So good for him.
Okay.
Anyway, that's what you want to do with your YouTube and what you kind of see going forward.
Yeah.
That's I know you don't have a lot of time. How did you get involved with Delta 17?
So a lot of people don't know this, but Delta 17 actually started before Toy Connections. Steve was working on his own independent line, didn't have a name for it yet. As of the end of 2019, start of 2020. He was looking for people to like maybe help him sell it. He didn't know how big it was going to be. He didn't know what production runs looked like. He knew that I admin a Facebook group in Canada, and just asked like, "Hey, can I get your some help here?" And he actually had a business partner at the time that's since dropped out, but both of them kind of approached me and said, could we help you? Could we get your help spreading this word along the West Coast? Because his business partner was Eastern based at the time. And then eventually it morphed into, well, maybe we don't need to sell through individual sellers and on Facebook group. Maybe we do this as a legit thing, like through our own website, and have a very unique IP, and develop the brand and go to like factories and things like that to get things done. And I joined Delta 17 5x5 toys in June of 2020. And we just slowly developed it since then. The characters have had different color schemes change throughout the years. Like, you should see what Preacher or what Shepherd looked like in their original design in 2020. Okami is exactly the color scheme that is now going to be the Joe Fest exclusive, right? Which works out well because it matches Skeletron's color scheme so well. And then Steve has asked my help to like help develop the story, right? That's why you see me listed as an editor on the first issue that's coming out for the comic, because while he's asked me to help develop the backstories for the characters, the first few issues where you introduce the characters, not so much their backstories, but when they're already in the field, he's developed that. But he wants to transition some of the writing to me while he moves to an editor role himself. Because a true editor doesn't just edit the comic. You're also an editor in chief who handles all of the production, talks to the printing press, coordinates the artist, the colorist, make sure everything is together. That's an editor in chief, and he wants to transition from being a writer to being the editor in chief. And he wants me to sort of like be on as an editor to kind of help with the writing to start with, and then transition into the author role. And then Delta 17, he didn't really have a social media reach. So as Toy Connections got going, I began realizing I think we can reach the same audience. I think Toy Connections and Delta 17 are converging at the same audience. And next thing you know, we're doing live streams about it. We're going to Joe Fest about it. We go on channels like yours, right? So he's kind of used me very much as a marketing person. Like we always say that, like, he wanted to give me a more direct role, because whenever people ask what I do, I just say, well, someone's got to get Steve's coffee and bring his stuff to the laundromat. That's what I always say.
You're very modest about what it is you do with the company.
I always say that, but like he started saying like you need to come up with something better. Like, okay, so I'm a shareholder now because I signed that agreement, so I can say that. But in many ways, I'm also like the acting marketing or acting brand manager, you could say. I say acting because like I don't have like if the company grows, you're going to want somebody who has that background.
Yeah.
Right. And because right now marketing is really what? Coordinating. Okay, when am I going to go on with Punk with Toys to talk about this? When am I going to go on with Geek Dad Life? When am I going to go on with Toy Habits? And I kind of schedule all that in, and then I kind of coordinate like Surveillance Port or Serpentor's Lair or toyhabits.com when they promote Delta 17. I'm the one that's got to get them the information and kind of get everybody on board, because Steve himself didn't have those connections. He has a lot of artist connections. Mm-hmm. Right. He's obviously been able to secure the funding, and he's got a lot of talent himself, but his reach was largely through me. So he basically was like, I guess acting marketing director is kind of a interim role you can say you have. Right.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So with all that, and you discussed kind of some of the things that Steve wants you to do. Now is Steve the sole ownership of it, or do you have some?
It depends on how you look at it.
And you don't have to like explain everything, but I just...
Yeah. So the short answer is he and his wife are actually the owners, right?
Okay.
Having said that, sometimes you can divide things up in shares. I have not invested personally in the company. However, I'm a shareholder. Right. So it's
So
in a way, it's kind of like owning stock in the company, I guess you can say.
so would it kind of be like how Dana White doesn't own the UFC, but he's still the face of it? People still think that he does. Does that make sense?
In some ways, yes, but like back when the Fertitas owned it, for example, like instead of just Dana being on camera, imagine if like half the time he also brought one of the Fertitas
Yeah.
with him. It'd be kind of like that. But also Dana would actually have to like not just be an employee. I don't know if he was just an employee or whether he actually owned shares, because
Mhm.
a lot of people kind of look at me as the right hand man of the Plett
Okay.
family, because I'm the only other person who's not in the family that owns shares of the company. That if we can put it that way, right? We have sculptors like Tommy. Corey's helped us a bit. We got a couple of new guys. Mega J's our webmaster, right? But none of them are shareholders. They're all contractors, if that makes sense, right? They're all
Okay.
very important, but that's just how it works, right? So it's like it's still very much a family business with an independent shareholder on the side. It's kind of what I am, right?
So so with all that said, where do you see Delta 17 going? And do you see do you see that your YouTube channel continues no matter what, along with Delta 17 also growing?
For now, yes. And what I have to be careful of, and people are saying again, too modest about it, like a few other toy companies have told me, too modest about it. I'm a little bit worried about like saying, oh my God, Skeletron is the greatest, and this figure is the most awesome thing ever. I can't wait for the Robo Skull. I kind of make it seem like, am I biased? Can I really give that opinion? But they're like, no, just disclose your friends with those dudes and go ahead and do your review. Like Ben from Skeletron called me and said, don't ever worry about you looking biased one way or the. I mean, if you're going to tear our company down to shreds while you're sitting there putting out the exact same like O-ring thing, right? That'd
Yeah.
be different, is what he said, right? But he said that if people know we are friends and you disclose that and you review our product, that's fine. I have no issue with that. As for the direction, yeah, indefinitely, I'll be part of both going
Okay.
forward. Yeah. So.
Well, is there anything else? I know you have to wrap it up for time. Everyone right now is probably going, whoa, an hour and a half? Wait a minute. You went just over 3 hours in your last one. Can't do that every time. Ken is pressed for time. And we're also recording this because, like I said, we'll both be in
In Joe
Georgia.
Fest.
All right.
Yes.
I will be in Atlanta at this point,
Yes.
and Ken will be in.
I'll be flying through Charlotte at this point. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I will.
Yeah.
I will try and be live because it will be a premiere, but I can't promise
Mhm.
anything because I have a feeling that Aaron the Toy Enhancer has all kinds of. I just feel like I'm going to show up and he's going to have this itinerary of like, oh my God, we only have this much time. We're going to do a toy. But either way, it's going to be a blast. I can't wait to meet you in person.
Same. You know.
Again,
Same. I won't have the belt with me because it won't. The weight limit's going to go over on the luggage, on the checked baggage.
just
If I
wear it on you.
I know, but then I have to go through the security, and it's got metal on it, and yeah. So
Can
yeah.
you imagine? Can you imagine security looking at you like, "Do you
Seriously,
wrestle?
but
No. But you have a
but
belt? Yeah. Is there a
aren't you
reason?
aren't you a bit
Sure.
small to be the IC champion? Yeah. Anyway, no. Yeah, I mean, throughout this journey, right? The last thing I'll say is like one of the reasons why I try to be modest about Delta 17 and everything else is I don't have a toy making background, right? So I'm kind of coming into this like a fan, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I have to be modest, right? I don't come from either that background or the like film production background. So I try to be modest about the whole YouTube thing because I do it all as kind of a hobbyist, right? I didn't know what tooling meant 3 years ago. Oh, that's what that means. Okay, now we have a company. Okay, but I'm still one of the boys because I clearly act like it. Same thing with the YouTube videos, right? It's like, yeah, I do a lot of research and all that, but I barely knew the right way of a
Yeah.
camera or a microphone 3 years ago. So
I feel like you're
yeah.
so like I feel like we are a lot alike, other
Mhm.
than that I really don't give two shits what people think of me, and you still have that. But like when it comes to YouTube, and we were talking offline, not today, but in the past, about Nick Nimmin and these other creators that they're there to help you and help to teach you.
Yeah.
Like they're not asked like I can't speak for Ken, but I've never paid for a program to teach me how to do YouTube. You just watch, you find the right people that they have other sponsorships. So they're not asking for your money. They're there to help you, right? The same way I always try. I can't explain. I can't even begin to tell you how many people reach out to me that are starting asking me questions in
Yep.
this realm.
Yep.
Because first off, I'm like, hey, you know what? If you have a question, just shoot me a message. I don't. If I have an answer, I will give it to you. If I don't know the answer, I'll let you know. Hey, I'm not sure, but maybe this, or hey, check out this guy, something like that. I'm not gatekeeping anything. I've said it before. If somebody is a small channel and they go right by me with subs and more live viewers or whatever, hey, good job, man. You're
Good
working
for
hard. It's
them.
my
Good for
job.
them.
Yeah, it's my job to continue to upgrade what I do and keep people interested in watching me. It is a huge platform, and there's
Mhm.
no reason why someone can't watch me and watch you. And even if we're side by side, going against each other on YouTube for a lot, let's say we're both going on Monday night.
If I wake up
Don't
one
try
day
and go
and
live on Monday night. It'd be stupid. Um,
I'll bring Ralph with me. Everyone wants to see him. No, if I wake up tomorrow, one of your videos is viral and you've passed me in subs, I'm just happy for my friend. I'll
Yeah.
rib you about it. I'll come up with some meme about it, but
And-
I'll
and-
still be happy for you.
and here's the whole thing: when you rip on somebody that does something great or maybe isn't doing something great, most people can tell if you're being serious or if
Yes.
you're just fucking around because we're friends. I've said before, a lot of people probably didn't realize that Tony and I were as good of friends as we are. Now, again, if you don't, you're just an idiot because I've told you so many times, like, dude, I talk to this guy fucking hours upon hours, multiple times a week. All right?
Oh yeah.
And I chat with you all the time. And I chat with, Dreadnought Ryan. And obviously, this might be shocker. I chat with both my mods a good amount. But yeah. But I want to say thank you very much.
No problem, man.
You gave me
I
some
was
time.
looking forward to this, right? So.
No, and again, I hope it gives people a better idea of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm looking forward. I love this journey. I never expected this when I started making a couple of videos to compare classified figures to the O-rings because I just happen to have them. That I would end up at PowerCon and meet Ted, Aaron, Ed, Oz, and a few others. And then I went again. It sucks. I went to Jersey for this. That wasn't training, but it was for kind of a competition because I play so high in my field. It was the week after Legion Con. Like why couldn't it be that week? Because we were literally right there. Like I didn't realize how close I was, but I stayed a couple extra days and I drove down to see a friend that, I've known her for years, but she lives in Baltimore, and she'd come up here, and her and her friend had stayed with me. But on the way back, on the way there, I stopped and hung out with Oz and Ziggy,
Yep.
and so it's really cool to get to
Yeah.
meet people, and then you can stop saying, "Oh, they're just my online friend." You're like,
Yeah, they're
no,
they're
no,
your
no.
they're your legit friends now, and
Yeah.
I will see you within 24 hours of when this airs. So yeah, But yeah. Thank you so much for having
Which
me
is
on.
crazy.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
So what I am gonna do is, because you didn't see the first Moss Man, you said you'd never seen that Moss Man video. I'm gonna leave with the first Moss Man video to end this. Thank you guys. Thank you everyone. So many of you. I guess if I'm gonna see you, Ken's also gonna see you tomorrow, and then Saturday, and then Sunday, and hell, I'm assuming we're gonna see some people on Monday too.
A little bit.
So some of us we'll be hanging out for 4 straight days, and we'll see the following week how many people show up for Monday Night Toy Ramblings because they may not want to. Ken, where can they find you? Let everyone know.
Toy Kennections on YouTube, Toy Kennections on Instagram. In theory, Lawrence has put the links in the description below, but if he hasn't, just type it into the search. You'll find me, right? Or delta17toys.com, the other way.
So the links to Ken's YouTube and Instagram, Delta 17, and I'll even put a link to our discussion with Steve about Delta 17 all in the description. Go down there, click it, buy some Delta 17. If you want to save a couple bucks and you're at Joe Fest, buy it there. Awesome. Ken, thank you very much. I had a great time. I will see everyone tomorrow. Take care.
Oh, hey guys, what's going on?
Mossman, what are you doing back here?
Oh, you see, so Skeletor, he had to go to the grocery store. He had to go buy more barbecue Pringle chips. And so he's put me in charge here for a little bit. In charge of y'all. He said, man, Mossman, I have to go to the grocery store, so I need to put you in charge of Snake Mountain. Ha 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 ha.
Yes, that's Skeletor. That's Skeletor. Right.
Skeletor said since I was in charge, I could use the credit card and maybe go online and buy some action figures for myself.
Oh, some action figures sound kind of nice. Yes. Maybe we can go to Big Ben.
Yeah, Beastman, we don't say that around here. We go to HellDopeToys.com. They have the best prices in town, and they ship everything in one business day. One business day, Beastman. That means I buy it, and it comes to my house super fast, and they pack it all real nice. So when I go to do my YouTube reviews for my 5 subscribers, I'll be like, oh, look at this minty fresh packaged box that I got from HellDopeToys.com. So what are we waiting for, y'all? Let's go get that credit card and head on over to HelloDopeToys.com right now before they run out of all the good stuff.